Ignite to impact.
Do you ever have negative thoughts running around in your head? Or do you have past experiences that seem to be getting in your way all the time and not letting you do the things you really know you should be doing? Well, listen, we want to get answers, tips, and advice on how to deal with those questions and more in today's conversation about how to conquer limiting beliefs during difficult times. Welcome. I'm Dr. Geneva, your podcast host, bringing insightful conversations with really successful people to inspire you to create extraordinary impact in your business, in your everyday personal life, and in your community. So, there's this thought that Louise Hay had that I want to share with you. She said, "We learn our belief systems as very little children, and then we move through life creating experiences to match our beliefs. Look back in your own life and notice how often you have gone through the same experience." I think that's kind of an interesting perspective, that we learn a lot about how we live our life today through the experiences we've gone through ever since we were little. But I think that, it's really something we don't spend a lot of time stopping and thinking about, because I think that those experiences and how they shaped our beliefs, and in some ways how they've limited us, it's not a very conscious kind of thing that we think about all the time. I know I don't. I really need to stop, and whenever I think about my limiting beliefs, and I've got limiting beliefs, and I believe everybody does, when I need to really sometimes stop and think about, well, where did that come from? And then I think we have these things that we do to kind of squelch what sometimes are our negative thoughts before they really get revved up. And we try to be good at positive self-talk. And sometimes we're being so revved up with this positive thought, let me keep saying, I affirm, I affirm, I affirm. We don't really hear the limiting beliefs that are in our head. But still, they're there lurking. And they probably are affecting what we do. And so I really have been very interested in having a conversation with you all about this limiting beliefs, because I do believe that it's so important. Our beliefs really are self-fulfilling prophecies, what we believe we are. Now, that's all good when our beliefs are all positive, okay? But if we've got some negative beliefs and our beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies, maybe they're sending us down the path of negativity. I don't know. I don't want us to get heavy and philosophical about this discussion, but I do want us to intentionally stop and think about and have a conversation about limiting beliefs and how we can deal with them and, get over them and conquer them, particularly during difficult times. And so I've got a great guest today who's going to help us through that. So I want you all to meet Arian Hargrove, who's the CEO of Love Force Systems, her own company. And she's had great impact as a business operations strategist who's helped Fortune 500 companies save millions of dollars, on their bottom lines, while driving continuous improvement in operations and customer service. And she's created this across-the-board consistency, which I find as an entrepreneur is so important and critical to my business. And so Arian is in the business of helping other businesses scale their business and empower their teams because she believes that equals a business that runs, frankly, without them, but with maximum success. Now, see, that's what I want. I want to be there someday. So propelling businesses to their next level of success is such a large aspect of what she does and how she helps entrepreneurs and business folk. So she's more than a coach and a consultant. She is what she refers to herself as a business identity designer. And so we're going to find out more about that is. But her distinctive touch helps make the personalities of businesses and business owners resonate with their clients and customers. Don't you want to hear about that? This is going to be so great. And so in that context, this conversation about limiting beliefs, I think, is so important because, when we run our businesses, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if, you're in an organization or any kind of leading role that you might have, being able to connect with your clients, your customers, has a lot to do with your own self-development. And so at the core of self-development is your beliefs and your values. So we want to hear from the CEO of Love for Systems, and her motto is drive costs down, drive profits up. The customer service experience should always be top priority. Oh, I'm just so delighted to talk to Arian. How are you today?
Hi, I am good. I'm definitely good after that introduction.
Oh, well, thank you.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you. Well, the thanks goes to you for being here with us. And, I just want to start right off with, will you help us understand what is a limiting belief? Can you help us kind of figure that out?
Oh, yes. So a limiting belief to me is pretty much what it says. You're limiting yourself to what you believe in. So if we take that even a step further, is you're pretty much kind of blocking your blessings in a sense. You're putting these walls up that are keeping you from moving forward, that's keeping you from advancing, that's keeping you stuck in one place. So those limiting beliefs can come in so many different forms, shapes, and sizes. They can come from outside voices, inside voices. They can appear to you, as some individuals may say, they get signs that they know they're supposed to do something, or a sign that they're not supposed to do something. They come in so many different forms, but the key to it is being able to identify when it does hit you or when it does appear in front of you. You have to stop and think and take a step back sometimes and say, okay, is this really what's going on? Am I really believing this? Or is this just the enemy trying to come against me, or someone trying to block me from moving to the next level? There are so many different ways those limiting beliefs can seep in if you allow them to. So I don't think there's one way that you will see a limiting belief, but you have to be able to try to identify it and then attack it, and keep it from getting deeper into your soul, getting deeper into your spirit, getting deeper into your mind. And you have to be able to recognize that limiting belief. And it's not easy all the time. Sometimes this is where, for me, having a very close-knit inner circle, individuals who you can confide in, individuals who know you, individuals who can give you that real talk too, who can say, hey, that's not who you are, or that doesn't sound like that's the right path you should be taking. When those limiting beliefs start to crawl up your shoulders or up your arms, up your back, it's so important to have a really tight-knit circle, whether, you believe in going to someone in the church to talk to, a family member, a friend, but having that outlet to be able to maybe bounce some things off of. And for me, that's what had happened to me. I had to share what I was feeling to say and get that aha moment to say, oh, okay, I know where that's coming from. Because sometimes we just go on and on and on in our days. We're feeling some kind of way and we're like, I don't know where this is coming from. And then that's where you have to kind of take that pause and stop and say, okay, let me really analyze this and see what's going on here.
So share that experience with us. As I'm listening to you, it seems like you've had a, up close and personal experience with a limiting belief or several limiting beliefs. Can you share that story with us?
I've had a few, quite a few, even within the last couple months. One that I can say that was ground shaking for me was when we had to do this transition. For a lot of us during this time, in this pandemic that we're in, some of us had to shift our businesses from being face-to-face and in person to virtual. And for me, that's what had to occur. And so part of that shifting, or some are calling it pivoting, I felt I had to shift who I was to, because now that I don't have this opportunity to be face to face with my potential clients, I started feeling some kind of way. I'm like, okay, maybe I have to be someone else to still be able to obtain these new clients. And so as I was continuing to have my calls, where I call them discovery calls with potential clients, I was noticing that we weren't having that same connecting conversation as I was having with them face to face. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Especially I had one potential client who had been a dream client. And I just, at the end of the call, I just wasn't feeling comfortable. And I said, what am I missing here? What is going on? And so one of the good things is I have a business coach. And so I shared my call with the business coach, and she started probing me and asking me questions. Well, what did you say when this happened? And what did you say when that happened? And so what I was finding out was that I was not challenging my potential clients on our call. So part of what I do is to challenge them to make sure that they get to step outside of those four walls or outside of that box, so that their business can be who their business is supposed to be based on who they are as an individual. And because everyone's business is not the same. So there's no cookie cutter for this. There's a blueprint to follow when it comes to strategy and methodologies. But how you run your business is based on who you are as an individual. And so I would hear things come out of my potential clients, and then I would just give them answers like, oh, okay, I understand. And, it's just being that passive person. And when she said, my business coach said to me, she said, why did you say that? And I was like, I don't know. I said, I think I got scared that I was going to lose the client. She said, but so did you get the business? I said, no. She said, why do you feel that is? I said, because I wasn't being myself. And she said, well, who are you? Tell me who being yourself means. And she said, she started saying, well, it sounds like you're being too nice and giving them what they need to hear. And then I said, I'm not nice. Some people are like, well, wait, what does that mean? And so when I say I'm not nice, it's not that I'm not kind-hearted, but when it comes to business, I'm that person that challenges individuals in their business so that they can understand that, hey, these are things you really need to take another look at. You don't want to always have people on your team who are going to go with the flow. You do want to have some people who will challenge you to take you to the next level too. But I wasn't transferring that conversation to my potential clients. And so she was sharing with me, she's like, you normally speak in a sense where you will give your potential clients the raw deal, what they need to hear to know, to make that light bulb go off and says, yes, I need this help. I need to know what I need to do to go to the next level. So once she said that, I had the light bulb, and I was like, I'm not nice. I'm kind. I'm very respectful, but I do give them to them raw that says, hey, look, you need to change A to get to B, and this is how long it's going to take you. But I wasn't saying that on these calls. And so I said, let me do some digging here. And so I had to think back to where that was coming from. And it reminded me of some past experiences when I was in corporate. and because of everything that was going on also in the world with the Black Lives Matter, all the different things we had going on in that environment in our communities, it made me start to reflect on what was I experiencing at corporate that might have gotten me to this point. And that transferred over into my business. And what I noticed is that I remembered being called the aggressive person, being called and saying, well, you're too aggressive. No one can approach you. You're the angry Black woman. No one can approach you. And all those beliefs and feelings started coming back up as I was starting to talk this out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like those are some of those limiting beliefs that I inherited while working in corporate because of being that person who would be the one that would just go out and get things done. But because some individuals didn't like that approach per se,
or labeled it
way,
differently,
right, or the way it wasn't they would have done it, then I gained that label of the angry Black woman, which unfortunately came from some individuals that looked like me, and also that being too aggressive, and then also being that person that individuals can't approach. But then on the flip side, oh, you're such a great team player. We know you can go out there and get the results, and so it was kind of like, well, which one is it? But that limiting belief and those labels started carrying over to my business.
To how you were behaving.
Exactly. And it was like, wow. And you just never realized that until someone, for me, it had to take an outsider to start probing me and say, think about where that's coming from. And I had another experience. I've been so fearful of doing videos on social media.
And why is that?
And it's like, and that's the question. It's like, why am I so fearful to do videos and then always critiquing them? So I would watch myself. I go back and be like, nope, got to do it again. Nope, got to do it again. And so I have experience with working on cameras, but I've always been behind cameras. So I always thought, well, maybe that's where it's coming from. But then again, that was another situation where talking to my business coach, and this is what she does. She's a mindset coach too, that helps you shift your mindset. And so we had that conversation again, and come to find out I had a past manager who was so like making sure every T was crossed, every I was dotted, making sure all the slides were in place and in a certain order. And I found myself going through that same process with trying to prepare to do a video. That I'm writing everything out. I'm going through this and going through that. And I'm like, because that's what I used to do for him. I used to do his presentations. So now it carried over into me, but I'm like, I don't have to do that.
Right. And so I think one of the things that at least I'm hearing from the examples, these really great examples that you're giving, is it has to do with our thinking, our mindset, as well as labels. The labeling, or that whole process that, we either label ourselves or other people label us as. And how this thinking and mindset and labeling affected your behavior and the things that you did.
Absolutely. And it's even on the personal side too. I've been labeled as the proper girl in my family, as the white girl, because of how I speak and where my family chose to send me to school to get a better education. It's been those things, again, that have carried over. And then the expectations that we think are there, and then they're really not, because sometimes we even put that pressure on ourselves. I put that pressure on myself thinking I needed to live up to the accomplishments and achievements of my parents. But we never had that kind of conversation. I just assumed. So then there was that pressure too. And then once we finally had a conversation, they're like, you be who you are. And I'm like, all these years I've been carrying that. I'm thinking I got to live up to your expectations. When you have a parent that graduates magna cum laude and you don't even come close to that, you're like, what did I miss? What happened here?
So it's a combination of so many things. I think we as where we are in life and people, and the labeling, the experiences, the examples you've given, the expectations. And it's no wonder that all of us have a whole set of different limiting beliefs. I remember when I have a whole list of them, because I'll try to find, because I think one of the techniques to deal with it is to find space to kind of think about them.
Yes.
And so I've tried to do that. But one that when I made the transition from, I was in nonprofits forever, it seems like, but I was a nonprofit leader, and I made the transition into entrepreneurship, which is a completely different, shift into the for-profit world. And my husband, who was an entrepreneur probably since the day he was born, used to always say to me, well, you're fabulous in nonprofit, but you have no idea, you can't make it. You have no idea what it'll be like being in for-profit, and being an entrepreneur and running your own business. And I know, as I was starting up my business, those words would constantly be in my mind. And because of that, and again, it was this limiting belief that was created through my experience and the words that were put into my head, and I was hearing from someone, of course, I cared about, and the labeling. So what I did was I would read everything. And I must have had about 20 coaches in my first year. And there were opportunities that, when looking back at it, of course, that I didn't jump at, that I would have. And it just took me a while, a couple of years, really, to fully understand that all them years that I ran successfully multi-million-dollar organizations in the nonprofit world, that those skills were in fact indeed transferable to being a successful entrepreneur in business. And there really wasn't much new. It was just a different game I was playing, but the same, skills and experiences and knowing how to react and deal with people and listening and leadership and all those kinds of things that I had learned, sweated, and been successful at, in fact, could move me forward. But those first couple of years, I had that limiting belief, and it definitely affected, I think, the growth of my business.
Yes.
But I came to a point where I realized it. So let me ask you, what are some of the things that you did to get over, or do you get over, conquer, whatever word we want to use to get to the next step, these limiting beliefs? What are some of the tips that you have for us?
So one tip I had to break that chain. And so for me to break that chain and say, I know I can do this. So for example, the video, I did a live video. And actually, I recorded it. So I'll be honest, I recorded it because that was still a step for me to do a video, period. And I posted that on all my social media pages, and I did my I am statements. And that right there, when I did that, that was so relieving. I felt like this new person. I felt like I was on top of the world. And it was only just, I think, maybe 3 minutes. And
but you stepped outside your comfort zone.
Yes, I had to finally step out and say, okay, we not about to do 20 takes. We just gonna record this video.
Right. Yes.
Say these affirmations, and I had to learn that affirmations they can be those I am statements, but they have to mean something too. And so that's one of the things that was like the turning point for me, doing that video. And then after that, because I recorded it, I listened to it every morning to remind myself of who I am. And I remember you sharing that with us also at one of your events, to record yourself speaking your affirmations.
Yes.
And that in itself is so powerful. It's nothing like hearing those words come out of your own mouth versus someone else's, because it's you. It goes into your soul. It just seeps right in, and it feels real. And that's the most powerful recording that I have, is listening to myself over and over and over again. And some days I do have to listen to it more than once because things happen. And so anytime anything comes across, anytime I feel something trying to creep up, I know, go to my phone. And because I keep my stuff on my phone, since I like to be mobile. Okay. Even within my home or outside, I know I can pull that phone out and I can listen to that affirmation, and then it just changes the dynamics of everything. And I can tell when I don't, because my spirit is uneasy. I can feel like I'm getting a little overwhelmed, and it's just those things, and everyone has different techniques, different avenues they have to take. I'm a visual person, but I'm also an audio person. So I can listen to hear things too. And that, just like I'll listen to scriptures, I'll listen to sermons. There's certain sermons I have saved that when I need that reminder, I play those over and over again. So that's been the thing for me. And even at night, when I've had a long day, I'll turn those recordings on and I'll fall asleep listening to them.
Oh, so powerful.
I can wake up.
Yeah, that is so powerful, that hearing and that listening, and but also the act that you did, the stepping outside your comfort zone, with the video piece, that was really heavy, and just doing that and just being spontaneous and doing that. And then you had also mentioned, I think earlier, another great tip about, you had a coach, someone who, was part of your circle, but was outside of you, who asked you questions, who challenged you, who, gave you some feedback, and who caused you to think. And so that's another, I think, because sometimes people, other people can point out or help us see things that are part of our limiting beliefs that we're so used to, because oftentimes we're not conscious of them.
We're too intimate with it.
Yeah.
So we can't see. It's just like being in a relationship. You're in a relationship with yourself, but when you're in a relationship with someone else and you're blinded, let's say, for example, if you are, by their love or by their conversations, and you're not seeing who they really are, it's the same thing with yourself. You have to be able to identify those things. And if you can't, someone else on the outside can be like, well, you might want to look at this. Or I love people to correct me, because I know I'm not perfect. And honestly, I don't want to be perfect, because then that means my job is done on this earth and I'm not ready to go yet. Right. So I don't have a problem with correction, because I want to always become a better person. And so if someone says, hey, you really need to go back and apologize, or you need to go and maybe look at this differently or change that, I do take those things into consideration. And then I'll take them and I'll go back and evaluate and see what's the best move or next step for me. And it's the same thing with this kind of work. I wish I would have come across this years ago, but at the same time, there's a time and place, and there's a season for everything.
Absolutely.
So I love the space that I'm in now, and I feel like it's been long overdue. And just being able to take those steps and do the work. You have to be willing to do the work. And it's just personal and business. On the personal side, be willing to talk to someone, or maybe go see a therapist or a pastor or someone in your church or a family member, whomever. But we have to learn to talk things out too. I think that's what leads to a lot of frustration and illness. Stress causes illness. And I know I've been there. So, I had to break that belief too, that I've gained from my community, that we don't go see therapists. Right. That we don't need to talk to people. And that's a complete lie. We need
that
to
is.
talk.
Yeah. Well, my listeners know that I'm a big advocate about talking out, finding great problem solvers that, you trust and are, have high levels of competency and integrity. And my therapist, I don't, there are times when I wonder how I could have made it without, before I connected with her. So I absolutely, believe that is so important. And that goes along with your mindset as one of the, changing your mindset as one of your tips or strategies to conquer limiting beliefs, which is so important, and being intentional. So you also talked about, breaking the chain, finding space to sit down and really examine, well, what is it that I believe in? What is it that's happening? What is it about my thoughts that are making me, feel this way, act this way?
And it's creating those boundaries. I'm learning each and every day. Nope, got to draw that line in the sand with this one. And, there are a lot of, what I'm finding out for me, there's individuals that I have to limit my exposure to. Or if we even continue to have any exposure to one another, because we're not on the same wavelength when it comes to certain things. So
interesting. Yeah.
That's those boundaries now that I've started creating, because there are people for business, there are people for personal, there are some people just to talk to whenever. But there's people you could talk to all the time.
Right.
Being able to identify who those people are is so key.
I really like that, because I think what I hear you saying is that, again, one of the ways to conquer limiting beliefs is to limit the folk around you who perpetuate limiting thoughts or limiting behavior.
Yes. It's not good for you.
Oh yeah, ooh, that's a juicy one there, Arian. I love it.
It's not good for you.
Yes. Well, as we're winding down, I want to ask you, if people want to connect with you, what's a good way for them to do that?
Social media is great.
Okay.
All my social media pages are Love for Systems. So LOVE, the number 4, and then systems with an S. And then also, if they want to email me directly or direct message me on any of those pages, that works too. But my email is info at arianhargrove.com.
And I love people who, like you, who know systems and put systems in place. And, because I do think it creates such impact that when, you have things that you can rely on, ways of doing things, that you're very intentional about that. And you seem to be a master in that. And so, it's just been a great talking to you.
Yes, likewise. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, we're honored to have you. And I want to have you come back again. We'll talk, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this whole, I believe that entrepreneurs in particular, and particularly female entrepreneurs, and especially African-American entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, I want us to think about more and place more of our emphasis on our own self-development. Sometimes we're so busy running our businesses and being all that we can be in our careers and our lives, and that's good. But I believe as entrepreneurs, particularly if you're a solo entrepreneur, you are your business, you are your brand. And so your self-development is so important. And I think you'd be a great person to talk about how you can, continually improve your business and improve yourself, your being, what you do at the same time. Would you be interested in talking about that?
Absolutely. I truly believe in it. I think that's like an everyday conversation with some of my friends.
And what do they say? What do y'all talk about?
about that self-care. Self-care is at the top of the list.
Okay.
I truly believe in that. I always have. I try to help them understand that has to be a part of your everyday life. Otherwise, you're not going to be any good for yourself nor anyone else.
Right.
If you don't take care of yourself first. And that includes the self-care and the development. What do you need to do as an individual to help you get to the next level personally or professionally?
Great.
And so it's all from experience, though.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have you back, Arian Hargrove, and we're going to talk about that and some other things. But since I have you here on this subject about how to conquer limiting beliefs during this difficult times, let me just say a big thank you, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And see, I keep telling y'all when you listen to what we're doing here on Ignite to Impact, that you'll hear about from wonderful people. You're going to hear about ways that you can get better results in your career, in your life, or the work you do in your community, or just some really great advice. Or if you just want to be inspired to make good things happen, Ignite to Impact is the podcast for you. So please continue to listen, to like, to download, to tell your friends. Join my email community. Go to drgenevaspeaks.com and you can find me on all my social media that way, Dr. Geneva Speaks. I just love having you here and having great conversations with you and bringing just such inspiring folk to talk about issues that matter. So thank you, and remember, for a better world and a legacy that matters.
Ignite to Impact.